Today I'm going to build a lighter that uses sulfuric acid and zinc so I can light my cigarettes or burn my house down. Personally, I think normal lighters are absolutely ridiculous. They're compact, lightweight, and fit in your pocket so a flame can be generated from anywhere, even in wet and windy situations. I prefer my lighters to be dangerous and inconvenient, the way nature intended. I naturally get excited when I hear the word acid. Some people fear that word, but as a chemist, I get giddy and excited like a kid on Christmas morning. So when I heard that the first lighter was invented using sulfuric acid to produce a flame, I knew I had to make one regardless of the hassle and the danger. The history of this lighter goes back to the early 1800s, where creating fire was somewhat of a difficult process. They didn't have the modern ways of fire that we know now, like lighters, matches, or Axe deodorant. Creating fire was difficult. Let's leave it at that. A German chemist by the name of Johann Wolfgang Dobereiner created this lighter through his discovery that hydrogen gas ignited when coming into contact with very fine platinum. We'll get to this more in a minute. He then took this discovery and combined it with a hydrogen-producing chemical reaction to create a lighter that people can use to light candles, fires, and even their pipes. I swear to God, our entire species was built on tobacco. So at the time, this lighter that I'm about to build was a convenient way to create fire inside of your house. Hell, you can even do it in your bed. This was revolutionary at the time, causing this lighter to go into production with about 1 million units created for distribution throughout the 1800s. However, there was one fatal problem that occurred about 3 years down the line. This was the match. The match coming about totally rendered this lighter useless for obvious reasons, such as being able to be carried in your pocket or being cheap to make. Also, not having to carry acid around was a pretty big deal. This is where the death of the Dobereiner lighter began. So let's get into why this thing works. The mechanism behind this lighter lies on the basis that a dilute solution of sulfuric acid reacts with a piece of zinc metal to produce zinc sulfate and hydrogen gas, as zinc is more reactive than hydrogen due to the fact that zinc has 2 valence electrons that are more willing to be given up as opposed to hydrogen's electron. This means that the sulfate group kicks out the hydrogen and replaces it with zinc to create zinc sulfate. Kinda like when your girlfriend dumps you for another guy that's better looking and has more money, leaving you to spend more time playing guitar and, I don't know, drinking. Did I just get too personal? My bad. Anyway, this is what happens to hydrogen in this process. Single and ready to mingle, forced to bond with itself, creating the oh so lovely hydrogen gas. If you know, hydrogen gas is very combustible, causing it to ignite with even a tiny spark. When this ignition happens, a combustion reaction takes place between hydrogen and oxygen to form water, as well as a load of energy in the form of heat. This is where the next part of our lighter's mechanism comes into play. When hydrogen gas released from the zinc sulfuric acid reaction comes into contact with platinum wool, we create what's known as a catalytic reaction, where the platinum metal takes the hydrogen gas and pulls them into its structure, causing them to split into the individual hydrogen atoms. Anyway, when hydrogen gas is split by the platinum metal, it allows it to react with oxygen in the air more easily, causing our combustion reaction. This insane amount of heat causes the platinum wool to become red hot, allowing us to stick something against it to create a flame. Once we have a flame, we can light anything we want. A candle, a cigarette, or a watch glass filled with hexane. That's one of my favorites. To make this lighter, I started off by getting a small jar, which I poked a hole into using a knife. This is where the sulfuric acid will go when it's completed. I also bought a glass funnel that will capture the hydrogen gas, but this will make sense in a minute. Inside the funnel is a piece of copper wire with a zinc hexagon on the bottom. When creating this piece, it's crucial to make sure there's a little room so the copper isn't directly on the bottom, which will stop the reaction. But once again, this will make sense in a minute. I then put the funnel through the hole I made on the lid, and now we have something that looks like this. After that, I took a latex tube and attached it to the top of the funnel, which will be hooked up to the gas gauge meter thing. I have no idea what to call it. Basically, this dial controls the amount of gas coming out through the end, which is connected to another tube that goes into the air pump nozzle that I found in my basement. And this right here is the platinum wool. I stuck it inside of this hex nut and thought it functioned pretty well, so we're gonna roll with it. When we look at the complete setup, the zinc inside the funnel will react with the sulfuric acid, creating hydrogen gas that'll build up in the funnel and the tube. As the funnel fills with hydrogen, it will push the liquid down to the point where the zinc is no longer in the acid, stopping the reaction completely. At this point, we'll open the valve and the hydrogen gas will flow through the air pump nozzle onto the platinum wool, creating our catalytic reaction. Without further ado, let's hook this thing up and create some fire. Alright, so I just added in the acid. You can see the zinc is reacting with the sulfuric acid. It's producing the hydrogen gas, and we're just gonna wait for this to build up. So as you can see right here, our reaction is completely stopped. Okay, the zinc that's right there has pretty much reacted with the sulfuric acid, created this hydrogen gas. We have the valve closed. So this zinc has stopped reacting. If we just leave this here like this, nothing's gonna happen from here on out. All we have to do is unleash this nozzle, let the catalytic reaction do its thing. Hydrogen is going to flow onto that platinum. Alright, you can see that right there. Now we can take a stick. Boom. We have fire. It's pretty lit, literally. Another thing I want to mention is you want to make sure when you're doing this, you want to make sure your nozzle is very narrow, as you can see right here. The reason for that is because hydrogen is going to come out of this nozzle, and if the nozzle is too large, hydrogen, it can actually ignite, go back into the setup, and cause your entire setup to explode. So that's something that we definitely want to avoid. So, that was fun. When it comes to real-world applicational use of this lighter, there's really not many. Carrying this thing around with you would be a royal pain and probably a little dangerous, as sulfuric acid can corrode many items, as well as human flesh. This doesn't mean I don't love it though. If you would like to see me create an even more dangerous pocket version of this lighter, go ahead and subscribe. Maybe. I don't know if you're ready for that, but if you're ready to subscribe, maybe subscribe. I don't know. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying nothing. Alright? You do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Adios! Ladies love this.